Alright guys, the video you have been waiting for. This is a review for the new Tom Ford MYRRHE MYSTERE. Can you see it? Finally have it in my hands. It was a bit of a challenge to get this fragrance. In fact, it took me some time. It's not officially launched yet, and I was coordinating with someone. Cannot say who they are. They first said I can buy it, but I can't review it because, we're not allowed to sell it because it doesn't launch until September, blah, blah, this and that. Going back and forth. You can buy it now, and then I was ready to buy it, then you cannot buy it. So back and forth, back and forth. Finally, they agreed for me to buy it, and they said I can get my video up, but I cannot say who sold the fragrance to me. Anyway, so I'm going to talk to you about MYRRHE MYSTERE, the latest private blend collection fragrance from Tom Ford. Find out everything you need to know about this coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, I bought it. Yes, it's expensive. Very freaking expensive. Can you guess how much this is? $1,300 for private blend. What the f***? That's so too pricey. So I got a gift card promotion and things like that. So I was able to use that, getting some cash back and things like that. But I have it. I've been testing it out. In fact, I asked them, I said, Tom Ford fragrances usually come with an atomizer, no more. So they had to dig around, and they found me a little atomizer to put the fragrance in. So I've been spraying it out of this. It's a tiny little atomizer because they used to come with nicer atomizers, but I guess Estee Lauder decided to get rid of those atomizers. First, they had these very clunky ones when I first got into reviewing. They were kind of square, and those were a bit flimsy. Then the atomizers became kind of roundish. Now there's no atomizers whatsoever. Thankfully, they were able to find this, so I can decant that into here so I can wear it. Otherwise, I'd have to find my own atomizer. But it's overly expensive. I don't think this is going to sell, especially in this size. I'm a collector, and I don't have any of the Tom Ford bottles in this color. And you know what? It's a funny thing is the color of this bottle is the color of the smell. Absolutely is. This color also reminds me of the color of Coca-Cola. And you know what I get with this fragrance? A bit of a root beer float, Coca-Cola-esque, sarsaparilla kind of experience, all from the Myrrh. It's a Myrrh-focused fragrance. And Myrrh, is it a popular note now? I'm seeing it quite a bit. In fact, this week I'll do a video of new fragrances coming. And there's some fragrances mentioned in there that focus on Myrrh as well. So Myrrh is having a moment. I'm sure we're going to see a lot more Myrrh-focused fragrances. I've also sampled the Le Labo Myrrh fragrance, which is also under Estee Lauder. Le Labo, Tom Ford, Frederic Malle, Kilian, all under Estee Lauder. And the Tom Ford and the Le Labo are so different, night and day different. In fact, this is more Myrrh. The Le Labo is more floral. Although there is that Myrrh-like quality in there, but more of its bubbliness, fizziness. And there is that fizziness here as well, but this is much darker. And the color of this bottle is just like how the fragrance wears to me. That kind of brownish, warm, ambery kind of an experience. So this is a 2023 launch, part of the private blend collection from Tom Ford. You know, when you smell this fragrance, it does smell like a Tom Ford fragrance. And I was trying to find out who created the fragrance. There's no perfumers mentioned whatsoever. And I kind of had to dig around, and I noticed that one of the notes they list is Ultravanil. So I looked up who owns this proprietary note, because it sounds like it's vanilla, Ultravanil, which it is. And it's owned by Givaudan. So there are a lot of Givaudan perfumers that have created fragrances for Tom Ford. For example, Sonia Constant has done several fragrances. Khalees Becker and Shyamala Maison Dew have all done fragrances for Tom Ford. I'm not sure who did this, but I'm 99% sure this is a Givaudan creation, and it smells like a Tom Ford fragrance for sure. It does. First of all, it also kind of reminds me a little bit of Perfume, but I feel like that one's more burned smoky, and even though this is smoky, it's more resin smoky. Does that make sense? So Perfume is the word smoke is there. So there's that burned smoky smell in that. Here, it's more like resin smoke. And it's also very sweet, but I take that back. It's not very sweet. There's sweetness here, and it balances out the myrrh. Myrrh tends to be a little sweeter than like frankincense or olibanum and things like that, but not as sweet as, for me, not as sweet as benzoin. And I feel like it's olibanum, frankincense, myrrh, then benzoin gets sweeter. And this is kind of in between benzoin and frankincense, olibanum. But there's notes of myrrh absolute, myrrh, musk, sandalwood, smoky notes, and ultravanil. And again, ultravanil is a note that's proprietary to Givaudan. It's a firm that houses a lot of different perfumers, and they have their own proprietary ingredients they use in fragrances. And this one is utilizing that note. And even though myrrh and myrrh absolute have that sweetness, they're amping it up with ultravanil to give it more of a vanillic twist to the fragrance, along with the smokiness. So it's gourmand, vanilla, sweet, and phenolic is what it says for ultravanil. So yeah, it's a sweet vanillic note that they've added here to give it some depth, because this fragrance seems a little first of all, it does have a churchy quality, and I get that from the myrrh for sure, but it doesn't completely feel like it's frankincense and olibanum, even though there is that quality in here. It's a resin after all. You kind of burn it and you have that kind of fragrance that kind of comes off when you're burning it. I really like these kind of notes, and I like the fact that resinous notes like olibanum and frankincense, they have a coldness about them, and when they're connected to warm notes, I like them even more, because I've mentioned things like incensey fragrances. They kind of get boring. They smell like church. Not much happens. But when they combine it with some sweetness, it gets a little more interesting, which is happening here in a sense, but the fragrance kind of wears one-dimensional for me. Not a lot of changes happening with this fragrance. It's an instant myrrh attack right on you when you first spray it. I mean, along the way, you'll go through some motions here with different things happening, but not big changes, because the myrrh pretty much dominates completely. There's some woodiness in the base when it's drying down a little bit with the sandalwood, but I feel like the sandalwood is kind of mixed throughout the fragrance. I'm seeing it or experiencing in the top notes and also in the base notes, or towards the end of the life of this fragrance. So it just feels like everything is blended together, and it's a bit one-dimensional. You don't go through a big journey, if that makes sense. But I get the fact that when I'm wearing it, it reminds me of church. It's a sweeter take on a churchy scent. But also when I'm wearing it, I get the idea of something fizzy, Coca-Cola-esque, more like root beer float, because the root beer is fizzy and kind of that flavor, that unique flavor. Plus, you've got the ice creamy kind of vanillic thing thrown in there. So I get that kind of feeling here with this. And also a bit of licoricey vibe as well. There's something licoricey about the myrrh note. And I feel like here with MYRRHE MYSTERE, it's a bit more licoricey in general. But for me, I think the root beer float might be more true, because there's that kind of the ultravanil note in here, the vanillic touch. And when it's mixed in with the myrrh, which is kind of creating that root beer-like experience, then you get that root beer float touch when you're wearing it. I find this to be not uber original, because as I said, it does remind me of other Tom Ford fragrances. It definitely has Tom Ford written on it. Like, I can tell it's a Tom Ford-like fragrance. It does hint a little bit at Ebene Fumé, I said, but also hints at some other fragrances, and just got a Tom Ford DNA. And given the fact that they've gone to Givaudan to create a fragrance, and they've had a ton of Givaudan perfumers creating fragrances for them. If anybody knows who's created this one, do let me know. Put a comment down below. I couldn't figure that part out. I'm sure that will be added to the databases later on, but according to my research, Ultravanil is a Givaudan proprietary ingredient. So I wanted to really like this fragrance. I don't love it, but I like it a lot. Does that make sense? Performance-wise, I just reported on Heaven Can Wait from Frederick Malle. That fragrance is a skin scent and disappears fast. This one does not disappear fast, but also I thought this fragrance for the price would be uber intense. It's not bad either. That's the disappointing part about this one. It's not as disappointing as Heaven Can Wait, but it's not a screamer either. It's there. It doesn't disappear off of me, but it does sit close to my skin after about an hour of projecting a little bit. But once again, I still have to spray quite a bit of this on. It's not beastly, as I said, and I wanted something beastly for the price point, and it's just not that. Maybe it's my chemistry. Maybe I've worn too much fragrance and things are not lasting on me as much. But, you know, I wear a lot of fragrance. There are fragrances that last. There are fragrances that linger on for a long, long time. So this fragrance I thought would be in that same category. It's not. It's a skin. To me, it wears like a skin scent, but the longevity is there. It lingers on, not beastly, just closer to the skin, which was, you know, with the Frederick Malle Heaven Can Wait, it disappeared off of me and was completely gone. And so this one, on the other hand, did not go away, which makes for a better wearing experience. But, you know, I wanted it to be a little more original, like the Le Labo Myrrh 55 was a little more exciting the way it wore on me. But I'm always a little cautious about Le Labo fragrances because they tend to be skin scents as well. A lot of them do. They don't have the greatest longevity, but I tested that one out. I'll report back on that one later. I found that one to be a little more interesting, but I felt like it wasn't really about myrrh, even though they're calling it a myrrh fragrance, you know? It's more floral. It's like a jasmine bomb, from what I remember the one time I sprayed it. But with this one, I enjoy the fragrance. Maybe I'm not enjoying it as much because it's not screaming off of me as much as I wanted it to scream off of me. But in the end, it's like a churchy, woody fragrance, smokiness there, woods, and also sweetness there. And, you know, it gets powdery. There's definitely a major powderiness about this one. And it's dry, very, very dry. If you like the idea of amber, because this is, after all, an amber, the Ultravanil and Myrrh together creates an amber accord type situation. It's a very dry amber. It wears very, very dry. The lingering power, I would say, is about 7 hours, very close to the skin, about 4 hours a little further away from the skin. But like for 1 hour, it does project maybe an hour and a half. And so after that, it's pretty much a skin scent. I'm happy it lingers on. And for some people, this is probably going to be very beastly because it does have kind of rough qualities about it. And I think some people might say it's even animalic compared to the fragrances that they're used to, because the resins can come off a bit animalic and things like that. There's a roughness about this one. It doesn't have a smoothness about it. It's not smooth. It just, there's rough edges when you're wearing it. So I think those kind of situations will create someone from saying this is pretty animalic or it's not a good fragrance to wear and things like that. It's just, that's how it'll be, I think. And if it was a little smoother and something was added, there's something, I feel like there's something missing for sure. Like there needs to be some contrast in here, some brightness or something, because it's all dark. And thankfully we have that Ultravanil to kind of brighten it up with its sweetness, but it needs something else, and also needs a couple of layers, like a top note of some freshness, some sweet something, more like a citrus or something to start things off, and then graduate towards becoming a deep, dark, rich, myrrh-focused fragrance. And after that, it would have been a perfect fragrance. But other than that, I think it's not 100% perfect for me. I'm glad I have it. I'm glad I have the fragrance, and I enjoy the smell. I just wish it was a little more perfect, and it would have been a winner kind of a fragrance. There have been winner fragrances from Tom Ford as of late. Noir Extreme Parfum, I think, is a really, really perfect fragrance. Sonia Constant, who created that original one, Noir Extreme, created the Noir Extreme Parfum. I think she did a great job on that one. But there's been a lot of misses with Tom Ford fragrances as of late as well. Grey Vetiver Parfum, I liked it, but I didn't really love it. There's a few others that have launched. The cherry fragrances were quite boring. This one, I just wish it was a little better than what we got. But I think I'm enjoying it. I'm wearing it. I like the fizzy kind of root beer float type situation with this one, and it makes for a little bit of fun, fun wear, rather than making it completely deep and dark and rich with all its roughness that's there. But anyway, that's all I have to say about this one. I wish it was more perfect. It's not. It's also not as bad as the Frederick Malle, which that fragrance, I enjoy the smell quite a bit, but the performance on that one is very, very dismal. Whereas this one, the performance, again, it's not the best, but it also doesn't disappear off of me where I can't completely smell it. Again, I was talking to somebody recently who messaged me on Facebook about Heaven Can Wait, and they said, "Oh man, I can't believe you get no performance from Heaven Can Wait. It lasts all day on me." And I'm like, okay, here we go with this situation again. See, I don't like to talk about performance in fragrances because everybody wears fragrances completely different. Everybody has a different situation with them. One person says it lasts all day. Another person says it doesn't last at all. All kinds of environmental things go into how a fragrance performs on you. For me, I don't like to spray fragrances in the morning after I'm just showered. I feel like my skin is dry and there are no sweat layers on there to prevent for the fragrance to completely disappear. So a little perspiration and you got that film of sweat on your skin, and then you could spray and the fragrance lasts longer. But you know, all people go through multiple situations. You might spray something on and it'll be there for 2 days, which I doubt there are any fragrances like that except for Followed. But the majority of fragrances to me are very moderate performing. But for some people, maybe they're not used to so many fragrances. They don't wear fragrance a lot. And when you spray something very wimpy, it lasts a day on them. And for me, that fragrance might be just an hour longevity on me. So it's all kinds of matters go into it. And just going back to this person messaging me about Heaven Can Wait, they said it lasts all day on them. And I'm like, whoa, that fragrance did not even do that with me. It disappeared so fast. So fast. The thing I did not mention in my review for Heaven Can Wait, I actually wore it to the gym and I couldn't smell it. And usually when I sweat at the gym, it's projecting off of me. There was no projection of that fragrance. Anyway, that's another topic for another time. But for me, this particular fragrance does have the longevity. It's just not a screamer. Again, it's going to be very subjective. Somebody's going to come and say this is the longest lasting and the most projecting fragrance. For me, it's pretty moderate. It's a very moderately performing fragrance. And unfortunately, the price point of this is really, really high. I think a 50 ml will be about $395. And as I said, this is $1,300. Very, very pricey. Thankfully, I had the gift card promo that I'm getting some cash back with it, and I did get some gifts along with it as well. And it'll be a nice collector's item. I do like to collect the Tom Ford bottles. This one's a nice color that I haven't seen before. So anyway, those are my thoughts on MYRRHE MYSTERE. So let me know, guys, are you excited for MYRRHE MYSTERE? Is this something that you've been wanting to smell? Let me know. Put a comment down below so I can find out. I don't know what else to say. If you've sampled it and you've worn it, do let me know. Put a comment down. I'd like to see what people are experiencing. And if you have worn it and you are getting great, performance out of this, message me and let me know. Again, I don't know, but it's kind of all over the place. People experience fragrances differently. For me, this one is not a screamer. Thankfully, it does last longer than Heaven Can Wait. And I can still smell it off of me later, hours later. Anyway, thanks so much for watching today's video on MYRRHE MYSTERE from Tom Ford. Let me know your thoughts on Tom Ford's MYRRHE MYSTERE. Are you guys going to go rush out and check it out? I don't know when exactly it's launching, but I think it's September 1st, so the following weekend. But I'm sure the stores are going to start putting it out already. Again, for me, it was a bit difficult to get this, even though I was promised to get it, and then they said, no, you can't get it. Management issues and things like that at the stores. And I'm glad to have it to report on it early on. But either way, thanks so much for watching. As I said, please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. I should say, guys, stay tuned for a Myrrh-focused video very, very soon. I haven't really done a Myrrh video. I've done benzoin, frankincense, olibanum, and things like that. Never Myrrh. And since Myrrh is becoming very, very trendy lately, you're going to get a Myrrh video very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. It'll be a top 20 list, and it'll be coming up within the next couple of weeks. See you guys later. Bye.